If you have a slow PC and you have been wondering how you'd be able to create 3D art and render it all out, you should pay attention to this. I've never really been a fan of modeling. I've been creating 3D animation for years and I've only done modeling just once or twice. That is why I don't even create 3D modeling tutorials. But recently I found myself sitting for hours modeling cool stuff in 3D and I actually enjoy the process. So if you want to learn how to win amazing prizes with your 3D skills, watch this video to know more about this 3D tool and their free design contests. This video is made possible by today's sponsor, Womp. Womp is an easy and intuitive browser 3D app that doesn't require a beefy computer or an expensive graphics card. All you need is your browser and internet access. Everything is rendered on remote computers using a real-time path tracing render engine. So you'd see exactly what you are creating right in front of you in real time. You don't need to worry about meshes, geometry, UV unwrapping and all of that. Just open your browser and log on to Womp and you're good to go. You can create whatever you want. All the processing is happening on their powerful machines and not yours. Now, one thing I love to see people do is bringing other people together to form a community, and that's something Womp does so well. If we hop onto Discord, you will see that there is an active community of 3D creators like you and I creating amazing work with Womp and sharing it within the community. This really helps to foster growth and confidence in their skills. Another activity that keeps the Womp community alive is the Wompathon, which is a community contest organized by the Womp team for creators like you, and you could be the next winner of one of these prizes. I'd love you to join their Discord community so you don't miss out on the next one. I've been testing out Womp for a while now, and on the 2nd of November they would be launching so everyone can finally be able to create with Womp. You can visit womp3d.com to learn more about Womp. Now let me show you what Womp can do. If I log on to alpha.womp3d.com, I'll be greeted with the homepage. Now the first thing you will notice on the website are the live events that are currently going on now. You could just go through this if you want to learn more about these events. And you can see some of the previous events. You can see some of the winners, you can see some of the entries. And the really cool thing about this is that you can actually preview all of these entries. Like Womp is so very community focused that you can actually preview all of these entries in 3D and see them in real time, which is crazy. You really get to experience the entire thing. A lot of people are creating very random cool stuff. Just creativity in the purest form. I don't know how else to put it. And the amazing thing is that you can actually preview them right on the website, right? So if you create something and you want the community to be able to access it, very easy. When you post it, people could just check out your work. Unlike places like Pinterest, when you come to find inspiration here, you can actually have a 360 view of every single one of the models. So you guys can check this out. There are a lot of really cool stuff. If you don't know what to create and you're looking for ideas, you could just come here and find some very random stuff that can inspire you. Wow, this is very nice. You can see there are comments here. People are actually engaging. It's like an actual community. Wow, someone actually made an entire bike. I love it. It's really nice. You can see there are also a lot of chat groups right here. But right now, what we want to do is to create a new default scene. So a new file. So you are presented with this default scene, right? It's not just a default cube. It's a cube and a sphere and other objects, yeah? The way Womp works is with a concept called the goop. So imagine this object, this sphere and this cube. Now when I move it back and forth, you'd see that there is an attraction, like a liquid merging kind of effect. And with this you can build whatever you want. Instead of thinking about geometry and how everything would fit and thinking about how to actually model stuff, you can just do this, whatever comes to your mind. You can add an object here, objects. Right now there are 3 primitive objects. A lot more is coming. We're in the early stages. So if we add a cylinder, for example, you can see that our goop strength is 0. If I increase this goop strength, it determines how much it blends with the other objects. So you could have different levels of blending. And the cool thing also is that you are also blending the colors. So if you have a blue and a red object, you are blending the colors in the middle to give you like a pink vibe. which is actually very cool. So you could build whatever you want with this. This is the building blocks, right? You don't need to know any principle of 3D modeling. You just need to imagine stuff and create them. So as you can see, you can move with this gizmo just like in your regular 3D software. In Blender, for example, you have the gizmo. You can move up, down, left, right on the 3 axis. Your left click is to rotate around the objects, just rotating the entire scene. Your right click is to pan, right? It took me like an hour. You know, I'm coming from Blender. I use Blender on a normal day. It took me an hour to get used to this. But after an hour, my fingers were already used to the entire process. So you could scale right here, scale up, scale down, just from the gizmo. You could rotate right here without going to the options. You could do everything on this screen, or you could go to the options, right? You can clearly see the X position. It moves on that axis. You can clearly see Y and Z. And the rotation also. You can do all these from the option menu right here. You can increase the size in terms of radius. For a cylinder, for example, you can increase the radius and the height just from here. So if you want something that is more like a disc, you can do so. And now a very cool feature is the roundness, just like the bevel tool in Blender, but it just makes it very easy. It's just one slider, right? You don't need to do extra stuff. You can just adjust how round you want it to be. So this makes it very round. It's more like a very flat disc, like a pancake. And if I reduce it all the way to 0, it's very squared out. Yeah, you can do this for all these objects, right? If I take the sphere and I bring it closer to this other object, you would see the blend. This is what's cool about this. It's just going to blend into it, right? So 2 objects can either have a positive relationship or a negative relationship. That sounds very funny, but this is a positive relationship, right? Where object 1 is blending into object 2. So it's a blend, right? It's an addition. It becomes 1. But when you think about this other sphere, if you notice there are holes in this cube, there are holes, and what's causing these holes is this sphere. So there is a sphere in the middle, right? But it has a negative behavior right here. If we change it to positive, you can see that the sphere now blends with the cube, right? There's a sphere that can blend with the cube. You can see it has this very nice looking, clean, playful, fun vibe. The way the colors just work together, I really like it. If you want to create something cool, you just want to create something very fun, right? You don't want to stress about what you are creating. That's what I noticed when I was working in Womp. I wasn't really thinking about what I'm creating. I was just creating. I was just flowing, you know, like creativity was just flowing. As it came to my mind, I made it happen, right? If I change it to negative, you can see that I'm now cutting through the cube using the sphere since I set it to negative. But when it was set to positive, it was a positive relationship. So yeah, that's it with positive versus negative. You can see there is a layering system. You have all your objects here and they are in one group, so you could group objects together. Nice. So now we have the basics. You could add objects here. You could add some models from other creators, right? Things that other people have created. You could just add directly to your project and modify it. That's one really cool feature of Womp. Yeah, you could just modify someone else's work, which is really cool if you need inspiration, right? You also have lights, right? You have lighting, you have different global lighting. You can check out the lighting. It happens in real time. You can test out different HDRIs in real time, fam, in real time. You can see that on my task manager, my CPU is using just 28%, 30%, and my NVIDIA GPU is not even being used, right? My RTX is not being used. So all these processing, all this real-time rendering is happening from their remote computers, right? So it's not putting a lot of stress on your laptop or your PC. Yeah, you could also change the backdrop, right? You could change the color of the backdrop, and that would totally transform the vibe of the entire scene. You know, you could change the materials. Let's say we want this marshmallow to have different materials. There are lots of other materials that are just there. You could just pick it up, right? Like immediately you see the effect. It's so cool that this happens in real time. And it looks very nice. Hey, look at the reflections. Very nice, and it's happening on my browser. That's what's cool about it. It's happening right on my browser. So yeah, you can easily render a specific model or the entire scene just by scrolling down here and going to export. You could either export as PNG, you could export as JPEG, and you could export all the way to 4K, like 4K resolution images, which is very cool. So you could also export a 3D model, which is going to be very useful to someone like me that likes creating animations, right? You could export as an OBJ, and then you could take it to your 3D software and play with it and do whatever you want. So this could be a cool place for you to just come and create cool stuff. Now let me take you through a project I recently worked on using Womp. It was actually a very cool idea and something I've had in mind for a while. I was able to create this cool looking scene. It's like a tiny little chess palace. You can see the wonderful materials, man. You can see how colorful and reflective they are. This is your rook. This is your knight, your bishop, the king, the queen, the pawn. I really had fun creating this. With the king, for example, you can see how this is one cube that I stretched. This is another cube that I stretched. So let me quickly show you how I made some of the pieces so you get the gist. Like for the pawn, for example, I started with a cylinder, then I had a sphere on top of the cylinder. I scaled it up, I made it a little bit rounder, and I just layered different cylinders on each other. Just a lot of cylinders layered on each other, blending seamlessly with a huge sphere at the top. As you can see, it's a pretty fun, simple process. I believe anyone can do this. So when I was done with the pawn, I duplicated it to make my rook. I just made the main cylinder a little bit bigger. I made it a little bit taller and put another cylinder at the top. Now to make those carved edges you can see on the rook, I did that using the subtraction behavior. So I added some cubes, and then I made sure the cubes were subtracting from the cylinder, so it made a lot of sense. It ended up looking really good. I didn't even expect it to look that good. So that was basically the format I used for the rest of them. For someone like me, it was actually quite a seamless process. I would expect it to take a lot of time, but I did this in a couple hours, like 2 hours maximum I spent doing this. And I have a little experience with the software and with 3D modeling in general. And these were actually pretty nice, even though they look a little bit stylized. And yeah, as I said, you could easily render this out. Like, it does all the rendering for you. In just a couple seconds, you get your image, you get your 3D model, and you can create something really fire from it. So guys, I love what the team at Womp is doing, trying to build such a cool software. And we are still in the early stages. There's still a lot of features to come. Features like real-time collaborations, where you create together with friends in real time. Mind-blowing. So guys, check out Womp today. Link is in the description, and let me know what you think. I'm sure you are going to love it. Womp is a new way to 3D.